You might not have realized it, but we're knees deep back in Banlist season. Don't beg 30% of you that have not smashed the ever-living crap out of that subscribe button. Smash it so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. We're going to have a little discussion here talking about, well, we're knees deep in Banlist season again. Somebody's going to be like, no, we're not, Robbie. You don't know what you're talking about. There is like a 3-week window here where there's like radio silence. We have a, main core set coming up here. Konami typically will follow the same trend of releasing a ban list before, a big core set drops. There have been a few exceptions to this, but for the most part, that was how things have been fairly recently. Things were really rocky around Tier Elements format, but it definitely feels like every 2 months has been about the cycle right now. Now, I'm not saying that this format is bad. Actually, I think quite the opposite. I think all of the balancing that has happened around all of the lower end meta decks, all the way up to, I would even say Kashtira. Well, yeah, I understand that Kashtira had a turnover rate of like 70-ish%, and that really makes it unfair, but Rogue has never looked better. If you look at everything that we saw out of the YCS, all the breakdowns, all of the, all the hoo-ha, all the crazy numbers, yeah, Kashtira has a target on its background. It doesn't take a scientist to tell you that, all right? Now, I guess consideration for things to really look at here for Kashtira. Something's going to happen to the deck. Well, no crap, Sherlock. If a deck is pulling 70%, I think everybody will agree that in terms of all of the more recent crazy top decks that Kashtira has been the fairest. I can't think of anything else. Yeah. Kashtira, yeah, zone lock-in's cool. Yeah, taking away resources from the opponent. Yeah, Shangri-La. It doesn't set up negates. Alright, it's just kind of like a protect your investment style deck. Protect the castle. The Rise Heart. People were figuring out a Rise Heart pass was actually a winnable strategy. Real crazy thing there. And the rest of the other 12 to 15 decks in the room could have success. Alright, if you're looking at that YCS top cut and you're like, wow, yeah, Rogue can't do anything. Okay. You have no idea what you're talking about, clearly. Alright, yeah, Cash had the craziest turnover rate I've seen in a second, but if you've seen all these 1 to 2 ofs creeping on in here, that's good. You can viably play anything. Yeah, you gotta play power cards to out the metagame, but I mean that's just kind of how it is right now. So what do we expect to see out of Kashtira? What are the go-to things? I mean, obviously Diabolus the Mind Hacker has been something that I think a lot of people are kind of starting to agree with. Diabolus getting banned would be one of the maybe the first prize card banned since Crush Card, right? Thinking about all the yeah, I think it is the first prize card that they would officially go after since Crush Card's termination quite some time ago. So that would be something that I'd be okay with. Mind Hacker is one of the more annoying things that the metagame has to deal with. Understandably so. I mean, extra deck ripping on top of stacking up the additional banishes from the deck actually does put pressure on the opponent, even if you don't want to admit it. It's how many extra deck rips can you get? It starts with the unicorns. You start going through Diabolus. Taking away Diabolus makes the deck slightly fair and takes away one of the tools from the rank 7 toolbox. Obviously, they have plenty of other options to go down, that's for sure, but messing around with that is definitely the go-to. You've also got the massive consideration for Fenrir and Unicorn. Now, in my personal opinion, I think Fenrir should be locked up. That card should be at 1. The fact that it can utilize itself, the fact that it is the one that is causing all this banishing face down via the monsters, I think that the card is nuts. And the fact that you're looking at Darkwing Blast here for a 10 reprint, April, May, June, July, August, technically 5 to 6 months down the pipeline here for a release of that, for them to reprint it. Whether or not the card goes to 1 now or later, and then you've also got the implication of the ulti, but I feel like that would be the correct one. But we're probably going to dance around the little hopscotch here. If we're going to leave the deck with triple Fenrir, which is 100% viable, by the way, I guess we can, then Unicorn becomes the next major consideration. I mean, it searches for all the spells and traps, right? Like, it also does extra deck ripping. If you've noticed, this deck has how much extra deck ripping? I mean, we're kind of in a format right now where, like, the large amount of extra deck ripping isn't critical. It definitely, if this was any other format, I feel like the extra deck ripping would be so toxic and so cancerous that so many people would actually be upset about that. So that's like something else to really consider is like, yeah, Diabolsis and Unicorn, you know, are basically power players in this, but like, is Unicorn like the more sustainable option? I do think that the answer is, if you don't want to go after Fenrir because of all the higher rarity printings, then you follow it up with that. But once again, it's never stopped Konami from going after higher rarity cards before to clean things up. They usually like to dance around. And now there is the topic of Birth. Birth is by far one of the nuttiest cards in the deck. The free extensions, the free banishing, the free everything that this card gives you. Seeing Birth go to 1, I don't think I would be too upset with that. It also takes away the percentile chance of them actually opening it, and then they have to actually blow their search off Unicorn on something else. So, for example, if they have to go search for Theosis, they can't actually set up the Birth. Taking away any sort of sacky, consistent options, I think I'm definitely fine with. Any time that we can reduce that sack factor in the game, it always feels a little bit better. I guess there is a topic of maybe going after Theosis or Raceloth, but we've already seen with Tyr that they were perfectly fine with leaving the field spell alone. Alright, like, you've definitely got a lot of consideration to discuss there with, like, if they're gonna try to like avoid higher rarity cards, then obviously Birth is the play. Alright, if they want to hit the consistent factor across genericness, then Diabolsis and Fenrir become the outstanding targets. But at this point in time, I think everybody needs to understand, because this deck has turned into the consistent monster it is. You know, it's just like yesterday, I swear, people were telling me that, you know, Kashtira is not going to be the best deck in the room. Alright, I remember reading in my comment section that people have been shouting to the stars that Kashtira is not the best deck. Huh. Really, really weird that people have no frickin' idea what the hell they're talking about when it comes to this game, but as per usual around here. And now we have to make a Banlist discussion talking about the implications of seeing Kashtira actually cleaned up. Now, Robbie, what about everything else? I'll go way more in depth at some point. I kind of just woke up today. There was no card of the day. I was like, oh, well, I got to put together something. So discussing the death of Kashtira was the easiest. I also just want to put a little sad memorial status here, because I already know that the death of Runic is coming. I love the deck to death. I think that the whole engine facilitates some pretty good things in the game, but when you're about to dial things back right now, Fountain, Tip, Skill Drain, I don't foresee any of these cards surviving the next list in some sort of capacity. And if Konami actually does let us dodge, it's going to be some of the craziest stuff in the world, because we already have Purely coming up here, about to be one of the better decks in the game. And I'm just sitting here looking at Runic cards, and I'm like, this whole engine is crazy. Like, now, depending on how they choose to do things, we'll have to wait and see. I don't know what the consistent method's probably going to be. Honestly, putting Tip to 1, I think, kills the deck. And I don't know if Konami wants that right now, because there is also the possibility of them printing more support for this deck. Because, I mean, it just kind of started coming out here in terms of, you know, good stuff. But if you're looking at, like, the format right now, and you don't think that Runic has not just put a target on its back either, yeah, it was 2 second places. Alright, the Naturia Runic version definitely, it made itself known, and I think it's bad. So what do you think about the possibility of Kashtira getting cleaned up on the next list? What do you think is the correct hit? Please leave a comment down below what you guys think. I'll see your beautiful faces back here later today, guys. Peace out. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.